Welcome to episode number 184 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We are recording live on YouTube, April 20th, 2017. A lot of topics to talk about this week. So many, we had to cut some out. Happy 420 Day, squeeze play on investors, talentless drawing, Google Home recognized, Easter eggs, USA Facts, Google's ad blocker, an inconvenient tooth, video recognition, fizzled instant articles, false twins, a scary fishing expedition, and a fond farewell. We started off with the best. BL always has the honors. BL, what was the best story of the week?
Well, I got a big kick out of this one. We were talking before about how to pronounce it. I think it's Juiceroo. But what happened was one of the most lavishly funded startups in Silicon Valley now has everybody laughing. I don't know if the investors are laughing, but everyone else is. And my mouse just stopped working. And so what happened is this $400 juice machine is sort of an unlikely pick for top technology investors, but they liked the idea because it was internet connected and it transforms these single serving packets of chopped fruits and vegetables into refreshing healthy drinks. That's how they sell it. So Doug Evans, the company's founder, who is a little bit of an inflated view of himself, would compare himself to Steve Jobs in his pursuit of juicing perfection. And he said that his juice press wields 4 tons of force, enough to lift two Teslas. And Google's venture capital arm and other backers poured about $120 million into this startup. The machine's $400, and plus the cost of the individual juice packets, which are delivered weekly, and you can't get the juice packages unless you have the Juiceroo. And tech blogs called it a Keurig for juice. Now, Keurig's one of the most wasteful things on the planet, but here we had one for juice. So after the product hit the market, there turned out to be a much cheaper alternative. You can squeeze the Juiceroo bags with your bare hands. So 2 backers said the final device was bulkier than what was originally pitched, and they were puzzled to find that customers could have similar results by just squeezing the bag. So Bloomberg performed a press test, and they pit a Juiceroo machine against a reporter's grip. And they found that squeezing the bags by hand or using the juicer yielded the same results. So Juiceroo, surprisingly, declined to comment, and a person close to it said that they were aware the packs can be squeezed by hand, but most people would rather use the machine. It's less messy. Okay, so there you go.
Well, I thought about getting juicer, but then I thought, well, what will happen is I'll buy a juicer and realize I have to buy a ton of vegetables and fruits and everything to put in it, and it'll just get really old after 2 or 3 times, and I won't use it anymore. So $400 investment in a juicer, and I don't really need to use.
But this isn't a juicer.
Right,
this is not a juicer. It just is like the Keurig of juice. You get this pre-packaged juice, not even fresh. I have a juicer, and I use the juicer, and it's fun to use the juicer. But this just squeezes pre-packaged juice. This is like completely ridiculous, as is anyone who gave money to them. Anyhow.
Well, like, juicers aren't the thing that most people are thinking about on April 20th.
No, they're not.
Most people are thinking about different kinds of munchies than juice. But so happy 420 Day, BL. The cute story from the Star Tribune by Rachel Chazin. The Wyoming, Minnesota Police Department posted a tweet this morning in honor of 420 Day that said, undercover #420 operations are in place. Discreet traps have been set up throughout the city today. #happy 420. And the photo that accompanied the tweet featured a bags of Cheetos, Doritos, a can of Mountain Dew, video games, Grand Theft Auto, and Battlefield, propped up against a park bench with a cop lurking in the background, holding a net, ready to snag himself some stoners. So he did this last year as well, posting a tweet like that. So that's pretty cute. But so again, happy 420 Day, everybody. And if you're new to this podcast, I want to interrupt the programming just a second. And if you're new and you like what you hear, please be sure to subscribe on your favorite channel. You can find us on iTunes. We're on iHeartRadio, Google Play Music, Stitcher, and YouTube, but especially on iTunes because that's where the critical mass of people looking for podcasts are. And if you subscribe, that's a metric that helps us get found by more people. So please do subscribe there. And on to your regularly scheduled programming.
Okay, well, 420 had lots of fun brand interactions. Ben and Jerry's had a special
Of
ice
course
cream,
they
and
did, yes.
yeah, of course they did. They had like an ice cream taco that looked like a joint, and Pepsi even had one where two cans were laying down in a field. I mean, there were lots of them, but you know, it's become AP ran an article explaining the history of 420 Day and how it's celebrated. I mean, really, people got into it. So yeah, happy 420 Day. So that you put the headline talentless drawing, but I think this is pretty cool. Google Auto Draw is using artificial intelligence to teach machines to sketch like people. This is from a VentureBeat article and a Google Research blog article. And basically, Google Auto Draw is using its artificial intelligence to pair machine learning with drawings created by talented artists to help you draw. And so working with these platforms, it lets anybody, irrespective of artistic flair, create these super quick drawings with little more than a scribble. It guesses what you're trying to draw, and then you pick from all these previously created pictures. So it says, so you can't draw, no worries. And so they're presenting, the interesting thing is we present a generative recurrent neural network capable of producing sketches of common objects with the goal of training a machine to draw and generalize abstract concepts in a manner similar to humans. In this work, we investigate a lower dimensional vector-based representation inspired by how people draw, and then they train it to do that. But just that explanation explains why so many people are scratching their heads going, artificial intelligence? How does that work? You know, and there were articles this week that said, nobody can explain it. So until you can, you know, I think we're going to start to see things like that are going to keep on coming around.
Well, I mean, part of how artificial intelligence works is it gets fed a lot of data, and this is Google's way of feeding their artificial intelligence a lot of data, is giving an app that you can play around and draw and have no talent and be able to create stuff. So that's kind of what that is. Another way that they're collecting data is through Google Home. This is an article by Jared Newman at Fast Company. And their connected speaker now supports up to 6 profiles that switch on the fly based on the sound of a person's voice. So a family with a bunch of different people can have their own profiles and use the same Google Home, but ask Google for their own playlist, their own individual playlist, their own appointments, their own news reports, their own commute times and everything, just based on the sound of their voice. So the way you do it is you set up separate profiles. Involves you need to go to the Google Home app, and then you must say, okay, Google, hey, Google, twice a piece. There's my Google Home sparking up right there. Twice a piece.
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help with that yet.
Right. And then Google analyzes the voice on its neural network and downloads the characteristics of your voice to the actual speaker, so it can analyze that on the speaker rather than going to cloud to analyze it, and doesn't waste any time doing that. The feature's rolling out to the US starting today, and it will expand to the UK in the coming months. But now, idiotic podcasters and Burger King can't intentionally activate your Google Home. It's, you know, this individual voice recognition you'd think could be a security type of feature, right? If it can just recognize your own voice, because everybody's voice is unique. But then I was thinking, until hackers get a hold of that Adobe Voice product that we talked about several episodes back.
Well, I mean, I can understand the usefulness of that, but it's also a little creepy.
Yeah. Everything's creepy these days.
I swear, everything is. But the next one I have is fun. It's how brands are using Easter eggs in marketing. And this comes from a Media Village Mindshare video by Ramona Sukraj and Karina Marina. And essentially, Easter eggs, if you don't know, are jokes or features or messages that programmers, designers, and developers hide in the software in the websites that they build. So, like, look at, for example, what happens when you type SKU or do a barrel roll into Google, and you'll get the results of the Easter eggs that were programmed there, and they're pretty funny. So brands are looking at these things as a way to humanize the brand and increase involvement with websites and have fun. So Ramona Sukraj lists 17 of her favorites, and I'm sure you'll like them. And then on the Media Village Mindshare, Karina Marina, I love that name. I keep saying it, Karina Marina, discusses a trend that she's noticed called hidden culture. And more companies are cleverly hiding Easter eggs to make their brands stand out. So, for example, in a nod to Star Trek, Amazon lets you wake up your Echo device by saying computer. Or to celebrate the new $10 note, the Bank of Canada changed their website to give you a surprise animation if you type in the video game chat code from a certain game in the 80s. Easter eggs can be as simple or as complicated as you want them to be. Brands, this is the fun part. They don't usually promote their Easter egg. That's part of the fun. But sometimes developers leak them online. But most of the time, users stumble on them. And, you know, it's not easy. But when they do, they let people know. So it's kind of fun. And you came across a great one.
Yeah, I stumbled across one as I was using SEM Rush. It's a keyword search engine optimization tool I use frequently, and as I was using it this week, I'll pop some little Easter eggs, literal animated Easter eggs, and so obviously I'm going to pay attention to it. Clicked on it, and it said howdy, and if you want to find more of these, they're scattered throughout SEM Rush, and click and tweet if you want to have a chance at winning something. I don't know. It didn't say what it's going to win, but of course I tweeted a couple and
recognition.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it was cute. It was fun.
That's great. That's fun. So you were just doing your work and it just came up?
Yeah, it's just as you said, you stumble across them, right?
That's fun. Yeah. That's really fun. So this week, Steve Ballmer created, you remember him from Microsoft, he created the mother of all U.S. government fact troves, you know, answering the question, how does the government spend our money? And the source of this was the New York Times article by Andrew Ross Sorkin. And the interesting part of it is, like, Ballmer has so much money that he spent what he described as an unlimited budget to compile the site. And it shows you, it's called usafacts.org, and you could look up just about anything. How much revenue do airports take in and spend? What percentage of overall tax revenue is paid by corporations? At the very least, it could settle like dinner table bets, you know? And he said, I would like citizens to be able to use this to form intelligent opinions, and people can disagree about what to do. I'm not going to tell people what to do with it, but he thought people should base their opinions on common data sets that are believable. And it's probably the first nonpartisan effort to create a fully integrated look at revenue and spending in as federal, state, and local governments. And he says it'll cost, this is so casually, maybe $3 or $4 million a year to maintain. He'll pay for it himself. He doesn't want any investors. He said, I don't even deduct this from my taxes. I pay for this with after-tax money, no pre-tax money, because I don't want anybody to think that they can influence anything about it. I feel like it's a civic contribution. But one rule they made is only government data and only, you know, no outside providers. And this has created its own problems because government doesn't give out absolutely all the data you might want, but there is a mountain of data. It's encyclopedic data, and it's never really been put into something quite so easy to use. It's pretty cool, actually.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. It's the new noblesse oblige, or the you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. I'm glad that some of these people who have made a killing in technology are giving back. Bill Gates and Ballmer now, so.
Well, there are arguments about this. You know, I work with a company in the field of philanthropy, and the arguments are that these people are having too much influence on public opinion and public policy. And, you know, this is fine with me. So far, they've all been good guys. I have not seen anybody doing anything harmful or mean with the mountains of money. You know, they're doing things like curing diseases and providing education. I mean, all this is fine. Let's say our politicians do something like that. I don't see that happening.
Well, there's plenty of people putting a lot of money behind propaganda, so it's there.
That's for sure.
All right, so this is another Google this week. Google has reportedly has plans for an ad blocker. Google blocking ads? How does that work?
Why, they want to put themselves out of business?
This sounds like it, right? This is from an Ars Technica article by Ron Amadeo. So Wall Street Journal reports that Google is planning to build an ad blocker into the Chrome browser. It will reportedly end up. Let me finish the story, Bia. I'll tell you.
Are we there yet? Yeah,
exactly. It will reportedly end up in the desktop and mobile versions of Chrome and would be switched on by default. Chrome, of course, covers like more than 50% of the browsing market. You can't expect it to block Google ads. I mean, why would they? They're not going to block Google ads. Chrome will target unacceptable ads, quote unquote, as defined by the Coalition of Better Ads. The Coalition of Better Ads has Google, of course, and Facebook among its members. It has a page, this organization has a page of least preferred ad experiences on its website, and they call out pop-ups, auto-playing video ads with sound, interstitial ads with countdowns, and large sticky ads, quote unquote. I think we can all agree that those are among the most annoying ads on the internet.
they're also the most prominent, so what are they going to do about it?
So it's going to, I mean, nobody complains really, think about it, nobody complains about search engine advertising. It's on-demand advertising. Facebook's advertising, most people don't complain about because it's hyper-targeted. It's more often than not relevant. So blocking the stuff that is really annoying and makes your computer slow down, who's going to complain? So it could block all the ads on a site that don't abide by the rules, right? So there might be some sites who want to mix acceptable and unacceptable ads, hoping that non-Chrome browsers see the unacceptable ads, but this might just block any sites that have unacceptable ads regardless. So these ad blockers obviously are gaining popularity, and with
people use them.
Right. With Chrome's 50+ browser market share and auto updating ability, it would be the most widely used ad blocker if they go forward with this, and it would give Google control over the ad blocking market and the ad industry as a whole. So there's pluses and minuses to this. I mean, I don't like a lot of the really offensive ads, the offending ads, because they're horrible. They're just,
annoying,
bad advertising. But I don't feel very good about Google controlling all the ad industry. Right?
Me either. What I really hate the most is when there's sound on the page and you can't find where it is, and there's nowhere to turn it off. There is nowhere to turn it off, so you have to leave that page. That's what you have to do. How stupid!
I use Opera browser to visit Mashable because there's so much crap on Mashable's site
Mashable is just
that just like crashes my browser every time I visit.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay, so do you have another good story? Because
I do. Yes.
Oh, good.
Toothy, meet Toothy. This is from a creativity article. An inconvenient tooth is a 2-minute long animated commercial that looks and feels like the old school educational cartoons. Think I am a Bill, the Schoolhouse Rock type of thing. But Toothy is a talking molar who schools you in the ingredients of toothpaste, which include synthetic dyes, I didn't know, saccharin, didn't realize, propylene glycol, which is in its industrial grade is used to de-ice airplanes, and in this pharmaceutical form is used to help toothpaste foam. After educating you about what's in your toothpaste, Toothy introduces the natural Hello oral care products. Plus, there's no animal testing, as the rabbit in the cartoon says, because rabbits don't brush. So it's very, very cute, very well done ad. Yeah, very well done ad for a new toothpaste.
That's really funny. Yeah, there's some other really nasty ingredients in most toothpaste, and you know, in most things, and anything that's scented. I mean, you don't want that. I am out of good news. So I'm on to bad news.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, anybody who doesn't live under a rock knows that there was this horrible murder broadcast on Facebook, this random murder by Steve Stevens, and Facebook did not get it down very quickly. They didn't know about it right away, and then once they did know about it, it took 23 minutes to get it down. But as we all know, what goes online stays online, and so it had already been downloaded, recorded. It was everywhere. So this is from a Wired story by Emily Dreyfus, and you know, Facebook is in a multi-pronged attack on how to deal with this situation, and the front line is you, because they rely on us to flag these videos. And there's some amount of AI which looks out for things on videos with an ID that's known to be associated with child porn or that's had violence before. And these, when they're flagged, they're sent to content. This I never knew. They're sent to Facebook's content moderators, a cavalry of hundreds of thousands of humans. I don't know where these people are, whose job is to watch hours of footage and determine if it should be deleted. Well, obviously, this is impossible to maintain in real time. The system is imperfect, and human moderators are still smarter than AI for now. But in the Washington Post, Margaret Sullivan said that something that we've talked about here before. Facebook still hasn't come to terms with what it really is, a media company where people get their news, and which, especially because of the year-old Facebook Live, generates news content. Since it began, rape, a horrible attack on a disabled teenager, and more than one suicide have been live streamed. And there's nearly 2 billion active users and more than 10 billion in annual profits. Facebook's a lot better off at making money, she says, and capturing eyeballs than owning its equally huge power and responsibility. And eventually, AI might be effective enough to flag videos like the one that was on Sunday night. And when that, sorry about that, those are my neighbors who like to go out and ride their motorcycles up and down the street all night. And when that day comes and AI can work with humans rather than replace them, you know, it's going to be a long time. And Jan LeCun, who's director of AI research at Facebook, says that, you know, it would not be able to do it all in real time anytime soon, basically. And it's not a matter of if Facebook will be able to use AI to monitor video in real time and flag a murder, but of when, he says. And there are people who say, it's never going to happen. So nobody flagged that Stevens video at all, according to a statement that Facebook's vice president of global operations, Justin Osofsky, said. The second video, the one of the murder itself, the first one was him talking about how he was going to do a murder, and the second one was the murder itself. And it wasn't flagged for more than an hour and a half after he put it up there. And then once it was flagged, it took the moderators 23 minutes to take it down. So basically it was up there for 2 hours. And training a computer to identify that kind of violence is a whole lot harder than asking it to spot a naked body in porn. It's a lot like trying to identify fake news. It's complex and it requires understanding of content cues, and it would have needed to process Stevens' language, parse that speech, its intonation, and then differentiate it from a joke and then take the threat seriously. And all of that is just not happening anytime soon. So, then the question is, what could Facebook do? And short of getting rid of live, which they're obviously not going to do, they could treat features like broadcast networks do and insist that all video be on a delay. But for reasons already known, that delay wouldn't be of much use unless somebody was monitoring every single video in real time. So it's a very thorny, difficult issue that's not likely to be solved anytime soon. And there's no shortage of crazy people who are trying to put horrible videos on Facebook and everywhere else, for that matter.
Yeah, I think it will be solved. I think it is not going to be solved soon. I don't, but because what it requires is a large enough data set for artificial intelligence to understand those types of cues, right? So it's going to take some time before that data set becomes available, or they're going to have to find one. Maybe police departments or surveillance cameras or something are a source of that data. But it's unfortunately, I think it's going to be an issue that's going to be with us for a long time. The other thing about that story is I hope that the people who are watching the videos that are being flagged are getting trauma counseling, because God,
really,
they must be
awful. How absolutely awful. But I think it's just so sad that people think of doing that to begin with.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of untreated mental illness out there, so unfortunately, yeah, that happens. So to nicer, worse news involving Facebook. This is from a Digiday article by Lucia Moses, and she writes about how publishers are unhappy with instant articles. Remember, instant articles were rolled out a year and a half ago or so, that allowed publishers to publish directly to Facebook and have their articles appear instantly on mobile devices, which is a very fine feature to have, because nobody likes waiting around, especially on your mobile device, for content to load. But they tried it out, and publishers are not happy with it because it's hard to monetize. One of the major partners of Facebook in this effort with instant articles is New York Times, and they've kind of thrown in the towel on it. Other partners are cutting back the amount of content they're publishing to instant articles. And in response, Facebook is making some concessions to the publishers with new subscription options. They've got two new features of instant articles, one where you can embed subscribe to newsletter calls to action within the article, another where you can get people to like your Facebook page. But the Times stopped using instant articles after a test last fall that found that links back to its own website monetized better than instant articles. Kinsey Wilson's the executive vice president of product and technology at the Times, said people were more likely to subscribe to the Times if they came directly to the site rather than through Facebook. Cosmopolitan was the first Hearst brand to launch instant articles. Now Hearst is absent from the program, having determined that it doesn't monetize well. Business news sites like Forbes and Quartz are also absent from the platform. Forbes experimented with it last year but found the monetization lacking. Their chief product officer, Louis Dvorkin, said it left a lot to be desired in terms of monetization. Condé Nast priority is to drive readers back to its own site, which is why the brand uses instant articles only sparingly. There's a lot of details that need to be worked out when it comes to subscription signups on instant articles, such as who owns the customer relationship, what data the publisher gets, and how revenue is shared. I mean, if you're not owning the relationship, why should publishers be doing it?
Well, this is the way that Facebook rolls out everything. This is the way that they launch everything, and then they wait to hear what people say about it. That happens with privacy options over and over again. Like, people are like, wait a minute, you put that on by default. I want to make that choice. So they kind of like throw it up the flagpole and see if anybody salutes. And I wondered about that. Like, who's getting paid here? Because we already know that the people whose videos are brought from YouTube into Facebook aren't making money. So why would the people whose articles were appearing on Facebook instead of linking to their own site be making money? So, Facebook tries to keep like all the money and they usually succeed.
Yeah. So speaking of taking all the money. There's a phishing scam, PHISINHING phishing scam going on that you should know about. I'm just going to mention the article. It's a Fortune article by Robert Hackett. The phishing attack involves the registration of domain names using non-Latin characters that make false domains indistinguishable from legitimate ones. So using this technique, Google.com could look exactly like Google.com, and you wouldn't know the difference. It's highly technical. We'll link to the article that explains the technical details, but it's something that everybody should be aware of.
What do you do about it?
Be careful. Apparently, Google has updated Chrome to deal with it, and Firefox Mozilla is still debating what to do about it. So apparently that's not been updated yet. But it's fascinating technically, but scary because hard to distinguish. So. You got another bad one?
I do. Speaking of things that are false, fake news is not going away anytime soon either. And Craig Silverman wrote this story on BuzzFeed, and it's a long read, but worth reading. It's about a husband and wife being told that they were actually twins. That was a false story, and it started out as a false story. So the story is they go to a fertility clinic, and part of the treatment process, their DNA samples are taken from each of them, and they discovered they are actually fraternal twins. And it was a story that was guaranteed to make its way viral, and it soon was on websites around the world. The Daily Mail covered it, Lad Bible, Elite Daily, The Independent, Huffington Post Germany, and even websites in New Zealand, India, Nigeria, and Israel. And they all pointed back to the same source, an April 12th story in the Mississippi Herald, and some referred to it as a newspaper. But guess what? There is no Mississippi Herald newspaper. The domain was only registered in November. The story is a total fabrication, and the Herald is part of a network of fake local news sites that recently started pumping out hoaxes. And so its utterly dubious origin didn't stop legitimate sites from spreading the hoax to a global audience. And, I guess like some of us are just never going to learn.
Well, I mean, the problem is one or two legitimate sites, quote unquote, pick it up, then everybody just says, well, it's from a legitimate
Huffington
source.
Post, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing is like, what was the fact checker doing?
Right. So I have this isn't bad because it's an ending. So there's a local podcast called MinAbate. And they just signed off their last episode. I listen to it religiously every episode, but they just signed off their last episode after 400 episodes.
Why did they do that? Are they tired of it?
I think they just probably, just like everything, you either tired of it or have other things in your life changes and you got other things to do and you can't do it anymore. But 400 episodes. So this was hosted by Steve Borsch, a great guy, Tim Elliott, Phil Wilson, Graham Thickens, Julio Ojeda Zapata. They're all kind of well-known people in the tech community here. Julio's a consumer electronics columnist for the Pioneer Press. They've been covering the tech scene faithfully and well for quite a long time. It was a must-listen for me for years. So much respect. Fond farewell. I definitely will miss them.
Oh, that's too bad. It really is. So I hesitate to bring this up, but on the other hand, this is so ridiculous that it absolutely must be brought up. Our president, the president of the United States, told the Wall Street Journal today that South Korea used to be part of China. And so he said the Korea actually used to be part of China, and he was discussing takeaways from his meeting with the Chinese president, Xi Jinping. So in an excerpt from the interview, this blows my mind. This is a quote. He then went into the history of China and Korea, and he said, not North Korea, Korea. And you know, you're talking about thousands of years, many wars. And Korea actually used to be part of China. And after listening for 10 minutes, I realized that it's not easy. You know, I felt pretty strongly that they had a tremendous power over China. I actually do think they do have an economic power, and they certainly have a border power to an extent. But they also, a lot of goods come in, but it's not what you would think. It's not what you would think. That's our president speaking, folks. We're in deep shit.
Who would have thought governing wasn't easy?
And healthcare is complicated. Who would have thought? So, so does that bring us to the end of bad news?
It does, and brings us to shiny new stuff, of which I have one, a quick one.
Okay.
Apple Office Suite is now free, or Apple Stuff Apps is now free. So iWorks, which is their Office Suite, which I never use because I don't like using it. I'm not a Windows person by origin, but it's free. iMovie is free. GarageBand is now free for all
Really?
iOS users and Mac device users. So if you've got a mobile Apple device or a Mac, then have at it. They're all free.
That's actually very smart of them.
It is.
You know, that's a good move on their part. You know, I'm getting less and less inclined to think that my next computer is going to be a Mac, and even though I love my Mac, because they're starting to take away things that I want. You know, I want to be able to wear my headset. I want to be able to have USB ports. They're starting to annoy me. But anyway,
Well, they want to charge at least $40 for any peripheral you buy. So it's kind of surprising me that they gave away all this stuff for free.
I know. Well, they must be coming out. Well, actually, I had a conversation this week with Shel Israel, who wrote the fourth transformation with Robert Scoble, and he says, and a lot of people say, that Apple is going to be coming out with virtual reality headset in I think he said September. No, he said June. And so they have bigger things coming up, maybe. I don't know. Remains to be seen. But until the day when the headset is a pair of sunglasses, like Google Glass tried to be, until the virtual reality headset gets like that, it's not going anywhere. But anyhow, I came across Keyword Planner, which I'm sure you already knew, but it's an AdWords tool, and you can use it even if you're not using AdWords, and it lets you know the keywords that your competitors are ranking for, and you can customize your searches, and you can use location, negative keywords, language, but everybody can use it, and you can search for long tail words as well. So I've been finding it quite useful. Is
Yep.
SEM Rush, is that one free?
No, but SEMrush is a paid tool. There's a trial version. You can try it out, and I use both of them intensively every week. So Google Keyword Planner is fantastic. I always recommend it to everyone. So, are we ready to wrap this up?
We are ready to wrap this up, Dave. Go ahead and bring us the daily numbers.
The daily numbers. So, Facebook advertising, which is fantastic if you know how to use it. You can pay for impression or by the click. So this is average cost per click for Facebook advertising by industry. This is from a WordStream survey. So the average cost per click for Facebook ads across all industries is $1.72. For apparel, it's 45 cents. For autos, it's $2.24. For B2B, it is $2.52. For beauty, it's $1.81. It goes up to $3.77 for finance and insurance. So you're going to, depending upon how much competition in the industry, you're going to pay more or less, depending upon the value of those clicks. And we'll share the rest of it on the show notes at beyondsocialmediashow.com/184.
That sounds awfully high for clicks to me.
Well, try Google AdWords.
Yeah, well, I don't. We hope that you have stayed with us throughout the show, and this is where you can find us online. David Erickson is on Twitter as D. Erickson, and also The Daily Numbers. He blogs at estrategyblog.com and trends.estrategyblog.com. And on YouTube, guess what? He's eStrategy. And and I am BL Ochman, and on Twitter I am at What's Next. And my blog is What's Next Blog. On YouTube, my channel is What's Next Blog. On Google Plus, I'm Plus BL Ochman. And the Beyond Social Media Show on the web is BeyondSocialMediaShow.com. On YouTube, we're Beyond Social Media Show. We are on Twitter as BS Media Show, and on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Google Play. So we hope that you will subscribe to the podcast on any of those channels, and we will be back next week, same time, same station. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.